In moments of crisis, when the odds seem impossible, ordinary people often rise to the occasion in ways that change the course of history. These are the stories of everyday heroes who, when faced with life or death decisions, find the courage to act when no one else can. Today, we'll look at one of the most powerful examples of heroism in modern history, the story of Flight 93, a flight that, without the bravery of its passengers, could have led to an unimaginable tragedy. It's September 11, 2001. The world is waking up to a day that would change everything. For some, it would be a day of unimaginable loss. For others, it would become a day that proved the incredible strength of the human spirit. On that fateful morning, 4 airplanes were hijacked by terrorists intent on carrying out a devastating attack. 2 of those planes would crash into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, and another into the Pentagon. But there was one plane, United Airlines Flight 93, that was destined for something else, something no one could have predicted. United Airlines Flight 93 took off from Newark, New Jersey, bound for San Francisco. On board were 44 people, including crew members and passengers. Among them was a man named Todd Beamer, a 32-year-old father of 2. What none of them could have known was that they were about to be thrust into one of the most heroic moments in history. Just 30 minutes into the flight, the hijackers took control of the plane. Armed with knives, they stormed the cockpit and forced the pilots to hand over control. The terrorists had one goal: to crash the plane into a U.S. landmark, either the White House or the Capitol building. The lives of everyone on board were in their hands. As the plane began to descend toward Washington, D.C., the passengers, many of whom were on the phone with loved ones or emergency operators, began to piece together the terrifying reality of the situation. One of those passengers was Todd Beamer. When he realized the hijackers had already murdered a flight attendant and were threatening more lives, he knew something had to be done. In one of his final phone calls, Todd Beamer spoke with a GTE airphone operator named Lisa Jefferson. He explained the situation, telling her about the hijackers and their plans. Then, in a moment of calm amid the chaos, Beamer said, "We're going to do something. We're going to take back the plane." With Beamer's words, a decision was made. They would fight back. Todd and a few other passengers began to formulate a plan. They knew their odds were slim, but they also knew that the hijackers had no intention of leaving anyone alive. Beamer said something that would echo through history: "Let's roll." It was a call to action, a rallying cry for his fellow passengers to stand up, fight, and reclaim their plane, and that's exactly what they did. As the passengers charged toward the cockpit, the hijackers, realizing the passengers were no longer passive victims, fought back. The struggle was fierce and chaotic. It was in those moments that ordinary people like Todd Beamer displayed extraordinary bravery. What happened next is still unclear, but it's believed that the passengers, through sheer will and courage, managed to breach the cockpit door. The hijackers, unable to maintain control of the plane, ultimately crashed it into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The plane was destined to crash into a U.S. landmark, but thanks to the bravery of Todd Beamer and his fellow passengers, it never made it. The 40 passengers and crew aboard Flight 93, each of them heroes, gave their lives to save countless others. Though their actions led to the plane crashing into a field, preventing a much larger disaster, the loss was immeasurable. Todd Beamer's last words, "Let's roll," became an enduring symbol of courage, resilience, and the human spirit. But the story of Flight 93 is not the only one that proves the strength of ordinary people in extraordinary situations. Captain Sully Sullenberger faced his own moment of crisis just a few years later. On January 15, 2009, Sully was piloting U.S. Airways Flight 1549 when both engines failed after hitting a flock of geese shortly after takeoff from LaGuardia Airport. With no engines, Sully had just minutes to decide how to save the lives of 155 people on board. In a remarkable feat of skill and calm, he glided the plane to an emergency landing in the Hudson River, saving everyone on board. His decision, like Beamer's, was made in the face of almost certain disaster. While Sully is celebrated for his skill as a pilot, it was his quick thinking and ability to remain calm under pressure that made him a hero. In an instant, Sully had to make a life-or-death choice. It's a reminder that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes, they're just regular people doing extraordinary things when their moment comes. Whether it's Todd Beamer standing up against terrorists or Captain Sully safely landing a plane. These are stories that remind us of the potential within all of us. In moments of extreme adversity, ordinary people are capable of extraordinary acts. And it's in those moments when everything is on the line that bravery, quick thinking, and the human spirit shine the brightest. Today, the legacies of Todd Beamer, his fellow passengers, and Captain Sully Sullenberger continue to inspire us all. They remind us that in the darkest moments, the light of humanity can shine through, and even in the face of unimaginable danger, ordinary people can become heroes. In honor of those who rise to the challenge, we are reminded that heroism is not just for the extraordinary. Sometimes, it's found in the everyday. Let's roll.